Struggling to discuss sex and intimacy with your partner?
Not feeling met, seen, or heard in your relationships?
I'm Janelle.
And I'm Andrea. We're two midlife mavericks sharing our own experiences.
Messy AF and no regrets.
With marriage, divorce, polyamory, and pleasure.
We've learned that when you're brave enough to figure out what you want and ask for it,
with partners, friends, family, and most importantly, yourself,
you'll feel more alive and free.
Question everything, especially your mother's advice.
There's no rom-com formula for this, but don't panic.
Being alone matters. Honey, I can't miss you if you don't leave.
What if your breakup could be your breakthrough?
Our podcast is for brave hearts.
Anyone who seeks or has found the courage to confront their fears and limiting beliefs about breaking societal norms in the spirit of finding their truth.
If you're seeking permission to be brave in your relationships
and want to feel less alone along the way, we got you.
Brave hearts, so much permission. Permission to be married and single at the same time. Permission to text with nonviolent communication during arguments instead of doing it face to face. Boom. Just those two things are enough to listen to this episode.
Yes, Nitsan is so articulate about how she has trailblazed just a new way of being in relationship. But most importantly, how her commitment is to bringing living beings into the world and how that is actually a lifelong commitment.
Yes, her commitment to the solidity of her life with her family is a beautiful and responsible way to create her own relationship structure.
Mm-hmm. Woo! Hold on to your hats. Hi, brave hearts. Welcome to Permission to be Human. I'm Andrea.
And I'm Janelle.
And this is our next episode of season 6, where we are interviewing couples and singles and beautiful humans about how they are designing a relationship that works in their own way, in their own format, as their own inventor of like what works for them instead of following society's rules. Today
we are thrilled to have a dear friend of mine, Nitsan, on the call and on this episode. And she is someone who, as I heard her say, she had no choice but to be a trailblazer in life. She can't live any other way but authentically. So here is a little bit more about her. But first, Nitsan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm really thrilled to be here. Can't wait to see what this will bring.
Yeah. So Nitsan Mesika, 51, has been legally married for 25 years to her partner. It's a first marriage for both of them. They cohabitate and co-parent 2 kids, one at home and one in college, and they live in Boulder. But both consider themselves single. Nitsan is a retired software engineer and now a wilderness therapist and psychedelic practitioner who is curious about consciousness expansion, cluster B personalities, ceremony, and soul work. She says currently she and her partner don't like to do much together, but it ebbs and flows. So we love that honesty. Nitsan, thanks for starting us out just like that.
Yeah, so I'm fascinated by this seemingly paradox idea of being legally married, considering yourself single, working together. And so we're going to get into that, but I want to get a little more context first. So Nitsan, can you tell me, what were you taught about relationships?
Nothing and everything. Like I would say everything in life is pretty much. Those 2 kids that I have, they have parents who are married for the last 25 years. And they have grandparents who have been together and thankfully are alive and well and kicking. And both couples are still married, for one over 60 years and one over 50 years. And so my kiddos have 2 generations of like living partnerships that are working. And yeah, it's we have been taught everything about relationship through these relationships. And we've never been sat down and taught about relationship.
So it's all, what I'm hearing is it's all from modeling. It's all what they see. It's all what you've seen, not what you've been told. Is there any belief or value about relationships that you had to unlearn to be where you are today?
I remember when I was a teenager, I was looking at my parents. I was like, I will never be in such a loveless, dispassionate marriage. And because I was a very loving, passionate human being. And I believed in romance and like all of those really, really big things. And soulmates. And I'm still quite a romantic. And what I've learned over years and years of being partnered and being in relationships in very radical ways is that what my parents have in their solid, grounded, unbelievably supportive way is such deep love and such beautiful relationship that I would really, wish that on everyone. So yeah, I had to unlearn that kind of Hollywood idea of romance. Yeah.
Yeah, got it. So I heard you say like the word grounded, right? Like grounded and supportive. So what does that look like in your parents' relationship or yeah?
My parents have this beautiful there's no word for it, right? Because it's not independent, it's not dependent, it's not codependent, it's not interdependent. It's like this beautiful, supportive, independent symbiosis. I don't even know how to call it. They work. They just work. They each have their own like lived life and connection to each other, and they hold a family together, and they have a we in such a way that I haven't seen in many other people. They have a true collective consciousness that they're carrying. And that's something that I've always kind of, because I grew up in it, I didn't realize how unique that was. And so, yeah, I think that's to me, that's the guiding light. That's the beauty of their relationship.
So I'm curious then, are you feel like you're emanating that as well in your current partnership?
I will say that is my guiding light. I will say that's how I hope to show up in every relationship in my life. In on principle, it's the only way that I can explain it is that if we are in a relationship and you're hurting, it feels like my own arm is hurting. And it's not that I'm hurting, so I need to save you. It just feels like a part of we, which is part of me, is hurting. So we tend to it, and the resourced tend to it, not because there's like a give and take, or because it's a like you take notes who did what. It's just because we have those resources and we have this pain, and so we address it. Yeah.
Like just a deep care for each other. Like we're talking in really abstract terms right now. And so what are the concrete ways this shows up?
So yeah, transitioning to the way that it looks like in our life, we live in the same house. We have our own separate rooms, and we have for years now. And I was homeschooling and unschooling my kids for part of the time. So I was full on 100% in, and Yuval was going to work and bringing the money. And a few years ago, I transitioned into therapy. And so I went to school, and the kids went to school. And then Yuval started driving them back and forth from school. Yeah, it just emerges. The truth is that it emerges. Like I'm currently recovering from surgery, and so Yuval stepped in. And when I have more space and resource, then I step in.
Where do your desires come in? Because now I'm hearing like, here's the pain. But when you have a desire of like, oh, and I want to go left turn over here.
Mhm.
How does the we operate in those moments when each of you have a different desire from each other?
So Yuval and I have different operating systems. As I said, I come from collaboration and we-ness very deeply. So I will say, hey, these are the things that I would like to create or do or be. And for example, we're building a pergola. It's a massive project. And I found the people and I called them in and I got the quotes. And then I told Yuval, hey, listen, it's this amount of money and I want to do it. And he's like, that sounds like a lot. I don't know if we should do this. And then that was it. I was like, what are we doing now? And so we talked about it. We figured it out. We had we had an agreement and now we're doing the project. Yuval, however, is very much kind of like a solo, independent human being. So he will say, I want to do this thing, so I'm just going to do it. And I'm like, hey, hello. I want to participate. Yeah, so we kind of like lead each other in different ways. I'm more of the, hey, let's do things together and consider all the moving parts together, and he's more of a trailblazer in his own way of, yeah, if this is needed, then I'm just going to do it kind of thing. And so we're different, but it somehow works.
It sounds like you feel free to pursue what you want, whether that's a new pergola or some
school.
kind of or school or is there a way that the relationship itself has inspired something in your own personal growth?
I mean, I think that the answer is no. In the relationship itself has inspired, but I will say that the relationship has always been such an open ground to experience and experiment whatever I wanted. There was no like, no, you can't do this, or we can't, blah blah blah. It was always like, yeah, do what you want, be who you are, and that allows for whatever emerges to happen. There's not a lot of in terms of personal growth, there's not a lot of blockages in this relationship.
It appears very smooth. Is there a particular process that you follow when you disagree or when you need to repair?
I would say that like there's nothing prescribed, but if I look back, then we tend to come to each other when there are things that require mutual agreement or resources that we have together, and then we sit and figure it out. Sometimes we fight, but we figure it out. Sometimes it's frustrating, but we figure it out. So the interesting thing about the pergola is that it ended up being an exorbitant amount of money, and he ended up saying like, yeah, let's do it. Can you take the price down? I was like, I don't know, I'm not good at taking the price down. Can you hop on this call with me? And he's like, I don't want to participate in that thing. I was like, please, you are so much better at negotiating that type of stuff. So we hopped on the call. He dropped us 12% of the overall price. And I was just like cheering in the background on the call. So yeah, I think that that's similar to the way that my parents work and the way that his parents work, is that we really lean into each other's strengths. And there's no desire for both of us to be the same. We're very clearly different. And we really lean into the strengths of each other.
I love that. There's no desire for us to be the same.
No.
Yeah. It doesn't seem that profound, and yet that is so much, I think, what we do in relationships, where we're just like, why can't you just be this way, right? Because that's how I am, and that would be easier, right? And so, yeah, it's really capitalizing each other's strengths. Okay, beautiful.
And I haven't heard you say the word, but there's like, there must also have, whether you had it from the beginning or evolved into it, of like patience, like acknowledging your differences, especially as your relationship structure has changed, which we'll get into, right? To be like, oh, okay, like he's not gonna invite me in, but I want to invite him in, and now he's saying no, but now we have to find this way, right? So like there's this, like there's a dance, is what I'm hearing, in your differences to get to the point of agreement.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It also, the other word coming up for me is commitment. So I'd love to hear more about that from your perspective.
The biggest commitment that I have is to non-rupture. It's not to not conflict. It's to non-rupture. So we're committed to the children. We're committed. We've created lives. And, we didn't just have a baby or have a child. We have brought lives into this world. And that's a lifelong commitment. That's not a, let's get them to 18 and send them off. That's not the point. And my parents are still such a source of loving support, groundedness, and belonging, even in my 50s, and my dad is in his 80s. We actually had quite a bit of a rupture lately, or a conflict, or whatever you want to call it. And I said, like, even though things don't look great right now, one of the things that I really care about is for us to sit on the porch together and look at our grandchildren. And, we're not romantic partners, and we're not lovers, and but we're parents, and we brought lives into this world, and we're creating a family, even if we're not partners. We're partners in that. And I want that to last. So, wow, I'm getting teary. So right now, we have what we have, and we're working with what we're working with. But we're not saying, hey, just like, that's not working, you go over there and I'll go over here. We're very, very much committed to our family, and to, our resources, and to our elders at home. And yeah, so commitment looks very different to me than the typical monogamous marriage, that you have to sleep with this person, you have to sleep in this bed, and you have to behave a certain way, do finances this way. And we have always been incredibly creative with the ways that we've figured it out and made it work. And it ebbs and flows. Yes, there are times that are hard. It's hard right now. And I have a lot of trust. I've been doing this for 25 years.
Bravehearts, the thing that Nitsan's describing that my heart is getting caught on, is this idea of, we made a commitment to bring lives into the world. And lives is a lifelong commitment. And like, we all look at our lives for the extent of it and all the different ebbs and flows, right? But this idea that, at 80, you're still a supportive, generative, holding a space of belonging for your children and grandchildren. Somehow Nitsan is just really capturing that in such a beautiful way. So that's what I took away from that section.
Absolutely. So much goodwill. And I love the idea of, kind of regardless of what happens, you can sit together on the porch and watch your grandchildren if you want.
Yeah.
Right. You're really just making your own way and following that rule. And it's inspiring to me. And because I'm currently getting divorced in love, and we still have a lot of goodwill and are still good friends and see each other quite frequently. And I still go to my in-laws house for like birthday parties and Christmas and all these things. And I'm just like, oh, maybe, I envision like, okay, we can do this for the rest of our lives if we want. Because it is just so going against the grain of society, there will be obstacles along the way that say, oh, no, you can't do that anymore because there's another person coming in, right? If he gets a girlfriend, or if he remarries, or if and so I think it's just the perseverance, right, to sort of navigate through those times and places where society says, no, you can't do that. And I think I hear you saying, yes, you can, Nitsan. So Have you had this agreement from the beginning? I just need a little more context.
Mm-mm.
Like,
No.
okay, just make sure
Yeah,
you cover
I'm gonna
that.
give you like the
Okay.
kind of like the interesting thing is that when Yuval and I started dating, I was kind of I didn't know that I was uh, prototyping ethical non-monogamy. I didn't know that. I just was like, okay. I've been in a serial like monogamous relationships, like one after the other. I got like marriage proposals, and I don't think that I want to do this. I'm like, I'm too young for this. I want to have a pause on monogamy for a year. I was 23, I think, or 24. And so I was like adamant that I'm not going to get a boyfriend for a year. And a lot of people were hitting on me, but there was this one guy. He was 39. He was way older than me. He was very successful, very hunky. And there was, in my little brain, there was no way he would want to be with me. And so I was like, I want to be with you, but not in this monogamous way. So we're going to like see other people. And he was like, sure, no problem. And so inadvertently, I was in an ethical non-monogamy for a year. It was fabulous. Years later, when we talked, because that's not the man I married, he had told me that he was like, "No, I was just happy with you having a good time, and I never felt jealous, and it never felt bad, and I wanted to marry you at some point, but it was just cool." So we were just prototyping it. We were communicating well. We didn't know that this thing existed. We just did it. And then when I met Yuval, uh, he was very solid, and I was like, "Oh, I think this is marriage material." But Yuval looked at me and he said, "Just know that we can be open sexually because I don't get jealous." And even though I knew that I'm capable of it, I looked at him and I was like, I don't know if we have together the emotional maturity to be able to carry such conversations and such. So I think that we're gonna be closed. And so it was. And so it was. So we stepped into a monogamous, committed. It was like I love to take it apart. So it's like we were financially fidelious, we were sexually infidelity. It's like we were, and we lived together. So a lot of the pieces that constitute a traditional monogamous relationship were there. We didn't get married. We were thinking of whether or not we wanted to have children at all. We took 6 years to get to that place. And we're talking Jewish and Israel and early 2000s. So it was like the parents were pushing, society was pushing, like you need to get married, you need to have babies. And then we ended up getting married in New Zealand. We didn't even tell the authorities in Israel that we got married. So we were kind of like under the radar. And then we had our daughter, and then we had our son. And at this point, like many relationships, unfortunately, it became very sexless. And I am a deeply embodied human being, and I can't speak for Yuval, but I'm sure that it wasn't happy for him either. But we trudged along somehow for a few years. We did not have any sex. He didn't have sex, and I didn't have sex, and it was treacherous. However, with everything that I told you about what I know about relationship commitment, children, family, partnerships, marriages, I was sitting there and I was like, I don't know what to do. I love him. I love our family. I love the life that we have. It's really beautiful, and I'm not willing to let go of my sexual life and my passions. So at this point, a lot of women get divorced or open their relationship or do all sorts of other things. But the truth of it, the truth of my being wasn't we should be married people who just have sex with other people and they come home to our primary relationship. It didn't feel right. It didn't feel true. And so at some point we sat down and I said, hey, this isn't working. And I've been racking my brain about what to do about this because, the scripted solution that we're provided is that you split everything down the middle. You split the resources, you split the time, the house, the children, you split everything down the middle. And I'm like, and that's kind of like the textbook solution, but we're both much smarter than that. So I'm sure that we can tailor something that fits us better than, what the government or someone else thinks is the best way to go. Because there was a lot of goodwill. And so I looked at him and I said, I think we should break up. But I love our family and I love our children and I love the life that we have and I love the home that we have. And I just I don't know if I want to separate really, but I want to separate as a couple. And the most miraculous thing happened. He looked at me and he said, wow, I've been struggling with the same thing and I didn't know how to approach it and how to tell you that. And I was like,
Wow.
great.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then we were at the entrance to a wilderness that we did not know. And there is no script for, and no one tells you, okay, so when you're legally married and you're raising children and you're staying with the finances and you're doing all the things, but you're single beings that do single life, but you have each other as family. And no one had a textbook for this. There was no single married for dummies.
Yeah. Let me stop you for a second. Just because I'm thinking, okay, I just really admire your bravery and you're like, okay, we're doing this. It's totally different, but we're going to make it happen because you both agreed. Was there any nervousness around telling your families or how this would look in society? And how did you navigate that? I guess I want to inspire brave hearts listening. That if they're facing,
we were closeted for a while. I'm not going to say, and then we, put our Superman suits and just so I had a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old at the time, and we were in California, which I didn't want to live in, and we moved together. Yeah, there was a lot of negotiation. There was a lot of trying to just figure it out. It was very unhealthy at the time, and Yuval was immensely supportive in my bringing me back to health and supporting the family. So yeah, it took a very long time before we really opened up. First with our families, primarily his. There was a period where Yuval wanted to come back and be together, and it didn't work out for me. And so there was a lot of pain. There was a lot of, on the one hand, as I said, it's practically impossible for me to not be me and not to do what feels right in the moment. And it with responsibility, it's not a frivolous thing. But on the other hand, it's a lot of burden. There aren't systems. There's no one to create what's needed around that type of being, And so you have to create that for yourself, and you have to invent the wheel a lot of times. Yeah. So as for coming out of the closet, I will say that to some extent, I think my parents are playing ignorant blissfully. I think they're aware. I mean, I know that they're aware, but they're like, so how is Yuval? And how are the kids? And are you doing this together? I'm like, oh dear. But I also know that it's because, my parents, they really just want what is best for us. And in their book, me being married in supported is safer and healthier. And they just want to make sure that I'm okay, kind of, you know. It feels like
Yeah,
so much love, and
absolutely.
I'm like, oh, I'll just leave it at that because I don't want to just cause more pain for you. I'm
Yeah.
good.
Well, and it's right. And it sounds like you actually have what they want for you. It just looks
Hmm.
different. That they may
Yes.
not understand that how it looks, but you're not lying to them. You are safe. You are supported. You are
Yes.
like your family is together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just admire how you're handling that as well, because I know yeah, it can take a long time to get to that point of like, okay, here's what my parents can receive, and here's what's not necessary to communicate.
Well, you're very kind to me. There were times that I was like, is this in a lot of integrity if I'm like not,
Yeah.
it felt closeted. It really did.
So they think this, maybe Yuval's parents think something, but what happens when you have a date or you have an outside relationship, and what has your
Hmm.
relationship status looked like outside of your partnership with Yuval?
Um, well, there were different stages. There was a stage where we did a third, third, third. So a third of the time it was me in the house without him. He was working in California at the time. And a third of the time he was here and I wasn't. And I'll tell you about that in a second. And a third of the time both of us were here. And so we were catering both to like having our own time with our kids, having time together as a family. And one of the primary things for us was to not have the kids have to go back and forth between us. We were like, this is a choice that we made. Like this is a choice that we made about life. We are not gonna now like uproot their life and start sending them back and forth. What made more sense when there were times that we needed like to have our own spaces was for us to be in the inconvenience of going back and forth and still prioritizing the time that we're with each other in the house. So it took a lot of different shapes. There was a time that I was working in Durango and traveling every week to just have the weekend with my kids. And Yuval was here 100% of the time. And I was like 50-50 in and out and never had my own time with the kids at home. Um, yeah, there were many, many constellations. There was a time that I was renting a place with a friend who's also a relationship anarchist and in a relationship that is similar to that. And we would tap into the apartment like it was him and I, and then his wife and Yuval.
Wow.
And so
Interesting.
we figured it out. We at every point, if I come in or he comes in and says, "Hey, this is difficult. I want to change something," then we come into it and creatively try to find a solution. So right now, we're actually looking into Yuval having a new place, and so we're doing it together. We're thinking about like what is the what would the finances look like, where would our son choose to be, or how are we gonna maintain the different places. It's still not happening, but it's something that is on the table. And yeah, and we're doing it together, which is I'm celebrating, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And what I'm also hearing, like, what is just great permission that
Yeah.
there is no one way, right? I'm guessing each of these phases might have been, some of them probably like a year, maybe a couple of years, right? And then, oh, there's something's not working.
Hmm.
You're trying something new again. And each time along the way, your children are getting older.
I have a
Um,
19-year-old and a 16-year-old.
19 and a 16-year-old. Okay. So then, right, that's different than,
Hmm.
a 8-year-old or 9-year-old. And so then they also get to be considered in a new way.
100%. And that was like part of the philosophy when we were raising them. Sorry. When we were raising them with radical unschooling and um, it's always been like radical present moment, and how do we show up to it with our resources and our love and our heart and our wisdom. So so now the kids are 19 and 16, right? And so we could say one is an adult. And I'm like, when do we become adults? Is it like a point in time that the government is saying, or and when do we stop becoming in need of parents who love us? It doesn't make sense, you know? And so now my 16-year-old, both of them are very successful in school, and my 16-year-old wants to go to a school in Europe. And and we feel very supportive of him. My 19-year-old is in college in California. And so I just came back from California. I was traveling to see my daughter, and we're talking about it. Like, if my son goes to school in Europe, I'm very likely going to live next to him for a period of time. And then my daughter would graduate, and she might want to come. Um, and then he might want to come. And it's closer to Israel where my parents are. So it's kind of like this, there's this, how do we work with what is in the most true way?
I love
And
that.
what is constantly changes. And so it's not a moving target. It's a target that is, how do we stay in integrity, in love, in connection, in family, while incorporating and accommodating everything that is happening, and things are happening.
Yeah. Your ability to be in the now constantly and trust and sit in the uncertainty is just, it really is beautiful. Just you seem like you're just embracing it. You're just like, yep, and it's going to change again. And then we're going to talk about it, and then we're going to figure it out. Instead of kind of being like, oh, why is it changing again? Damn it. Right. Like, instead of being resistant to that. So are there any relationship hacks or tools or things, even things that might seem strange to someone else that you and Yuval have decided on, or you do on a weekly basis or a daily basis, that help you stay in cohesion with each other?
To move in target. I will say that I have been teaching nonviolent communication and for at least 19 years at this point. That the work that I do in plant medicine and psychedelic work and in therapy has provided with a lot of capacity to be present, a lot of capacity to be truthful, a lot of capacity to express, but I think that the one thing is to remember that we speak different languages, and to make sure that that I speak the language of the person listening. And so there were times, for example, that the only way for us to have conversation about really hot topics was via text, because being close to each other was more activating. And so for a lot of people, text is the most like activating, inflammatory thing, because there's a lot of misunderstanding, the tone of voice doesn't come across, etc. But for us, it was like okay, now I can actually speak clearly, and I'm not going to activate you because you read my facial expression a certain way, and you make up a story about it. So we work with what is. That's the bottom line, I think. And yeah, that's the bottom line.
Yeah, I love this permission to text, though, too. I mean, I think it often can cause problems, but I would say for me, looking at each other caused way more.
Yeah.
Because of what you referenced there, Nitsan, about.
I mean, if you pair NVC with texting and you do it really well, you can actually send a message that diffuses more than inflames.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah. I love that. It's just super counterintuitive, but that's what this podcast is often about.
Yeah. Okay, Brave Hearts, what we just got there was nonviolent communication protocol framework and texting as the unconventional. I have a question, Nitsan. How did your kids handle the various living arrangements and relationships, and like you never mentioned if you at any point in these last, like, I think it's about 10 years, right? Did you have a significant other, or he have a significant other at any point, and how that person came in, or yeah, just kind of curious about how you
So
navigate
those
that
are
as a
multiple questions. I'm gonna have you answer.
Okay.
I will say this. As for the closet mentioned earlier, we actually didn't share it with my kids, with our kids, until they hit puberty, which took a minute. We talked to our daughter first, and she was relieved. She was relieved. She was like, "Oh, thank God." It's like the reason we talked to her was, or with both of them, it was like, yeah, listen, like we care about each other, we make it work. It's probably better than a lot of people who are married and together in some ways. Not saying it's ideal or great all the time, and we want you to know that a lot of people, when they're married and together as partners or romantic partners, are very touchy, and it just looks different. And we don't want you to think that this model of relationship is what we wish for you. Maybe what you will want to have is something incredibly embodied. Our relationship is not embodied. It's not touch based. It's not snuggle based. So I don't want you to think that this is marriage. And she was relieved because she did not feel that, this was I think that it's a similar sentiment to what I was telling about my parents when I was a teenager.
You found out that you're living, I actually now I'm living what my parents were doing, and I get it.
Yeah. And then when we told my son, he was more sad, and for a few years later he was still hoping that, he might have the dream of mom and dad, in love and together. And yeah, and from the vantage point of my age at this point, I'm like, no, but what you have is solidity. What you have is a thing that is immutable. What you have is a thing that loves you unconditionally, that would never drop you. And that's more valuable than whether or not we're having sex.
Yeah. Boom. Mic drop. That's beautiful. Wow. Yeah, I'm really reeling from all the permission that's been given in this episode already. Just, permission to text, permission to do it even more deeply your own way, permission to keep a solid living situation, permission to keep embracing the now and evaluating as things are changing, as the world is changing, as you're changing, as your children are changing.
Permission to be married and single, right? Like you're creating your own definitions.
Yeah.
As you said, when the wilderness opened up in front of you, when you and Johan initially had this conversation, that we like to say, there's no map out here, and you have to create it for yourself. And that's what this episode was about.
I do want to answer like what you said about other relationships. At the beginning, there was a don't ask, don't tell kind of desire. And I think that it was because there was still like insecurities and fears of loss, or that it will all fall apart. The truth is that I still don't know whether or not Yuval has relationships. And the truth is that it doesn't matter to me. I have had a couple of more serious relationships that I just don't know how to there's no language for this, is what I feel. The truth has always been that my family comes before my romantic relationships, and that's it. And so it was never, let me bring whatever fucking thing I found on the street. Sorry for dropping Fs. Let me bring whatever I found on the street and introduce it to my children, whom I've loved and protected and basically curated an environment for them that is like deeply loving and supportive and then just like bring just anyone to them. I was like, no, you'll have to prove yourself worthy of meeting my family. And so I have been incredibly cautious and conscious of being deeply respectful to my family and its needs. And so I did not introduce people before the relationship got serious, just because I didn't want to wreak havoc in their lives. My kids know my dear friends in my community very well. I have a lot of radical cool friends that come here and hang out, and they know my kids. And my kids have a lot of like aunts and uncles. I'm deeply discerning when it comes to who comes into their lives.
It still feels like you're choosing to put your family first. Your needs and desires around romantic partnership, you're quite comfortable and choosing for them to be, let's say, secondary. And perhaps, right, when the moment changes and maybe all the kids are in school or out of school, and then you're like, oh, okay, now here's a new moment and something new gets to change for yourself. But until that moment, you're still choosing. It doesn't seem like you're sacrificing your romantic partnerships, or your romantic life.
No.
You're like, oh no, I'm going to choice around all of it.
Yeah, no, not at all. Like I have lived a life and I've seen all the things and I've done many of them. and I am that kind of parent who talks about things, and I'm the kind of parent who discusses sexuality with my kids and romantic relationships with my kids. I want the people that I bring in to be in their lives, to be consistent, to be constant, to be of the same commitment ilk. And it's not necessarily what I relate with or play with. My family has held me when there were breakups and where like, it can really wreck a heart sometimes, like breakups or so. Yeah, there was a lot of love here. And I'm really happy to see my daughter, my child, in a loving, committed, romantic relationship. My kiddo is pansexual, non-binary. Their partner is bisexual, and we're just like, oh, look at them.
Love it. The openness. And I also hear when you're zigging everyone else's zag, there comes great responsibility with that.
Yes.
Nitsan, thank you so much for sharing so openly and so transparently for our listeners. I think it's such a benefit to be given this much permission. So I really appreciate your honesty and you're willing to be on the podcast.
Thank you so much.
And Nitsan, I'd love for you to tell our brave hearts, because of all the things that you do in terms of wilderness therapy and psychedelic facilitator, to let our brave hearts know just a little bit about what that means, who you work with, and how they can find you.
So I'm in recovery from surgery, so my practice is a bit smaller right now. I work with my own brave hearts, and I'm a wilderness therapist. I work in Boulder as a how do you call it? Private practice therapist. And I'm also a certified psychedelic therapist, and I do that type of work as well. In wilderness therapy, I work primarily with couples and families and young people who are growing in families that are not working very well. And so I bring a lot of my own experience in my wider range of understanding how this can work into that type of work. What else? I have a website. It's www.nitsanmesika.com. I do want to tell you though that my primary work right now is writing, and I'm investing a lot in a Substack that is called Healing Teka, and in a book that is called The Narcissistic Trap: How Americans Create the Thing They Fear the Most.
So I want to be clear for Bravehearts what the exact URL is. It's www.nitsanem as in Mary, ESIKA.com. So thank you so much, Nitsan. Such a pleasure to meet you. Thank you, Bravehearts. We love you. We'll see you next time.
Hey, Bravehearts, looking for permission?
Work with us. We offer Braveheart coaching.
Follow us on Instagram.
Meet us in real life at a Braveheart conversation.
Subscribe to our newsletter.
Do all this and more at our website, permissiontobehuman.live.